Get this straight. While Cohen and Manafort are facing serious prison sentences, everyone in Hillary Clinton's orbit is getting off scot-free. And what about the surveillance of members of the Trump campaign? No charges filed of that, and no evidence that the special prosecutor is pursuing that. This all sounds like a two-tiered system of justice to me. Raising questions, is the second special counsel needed? Joining me now for a reaction are two lawyers, former U.S. Attorney Kendall Coffey and Bryan Rotella, CEO and senior partner of Genco Legal. I appreciate you both being here. I want to get your perspective as attorneys. This whole issue of attorney-client privilege. If you will go out and hire an attorney to do something, I presume that you do it to make sure that it's done legally and lawfully. And you have some protection in being able to give that information and make those things move forward. So as you look at this situation, Kendall, isn't that a plausible story or scenario? How did that just totally fall apart in the Cohen situation?
Sure, and that's why we can charge the big bucks. Clients trust us.
Right.
They trust us with confidentiality. They trust us with figuring all this out. Campaign finance laws are especially complicated, especially federal campaign finance laws. So I strongly suspect not only did the president have no idea that somebody might put this on a prosecution radar screen someday, but I doubt Michael Cohen did. Because what is being talked about as a federal crime was unsuccessfully raised against John Edwards. You remember that years ago, discredited
right.
as a theory. And most people think if you use personal money that goes to some private person in order to deal with personal issues, that's not a campaign contribution.
Bryan, are we supposed to believe that every conversation now that Donald Trump has had with his attorney is somehow part of what the special counsel gets to look at? Isn't there some sort of limitation? Because that attorney-client privilege isn't just waived on all of these issues, correct?
Yeah, Jason. I mean, look, for your audience, anyone who heard this allocution that Michael Cohen gave yesterday, and an allocution might sound like something from The Sopranos. You know, I'm Italian-American, and we, the folks would get up in front of the court and they would attest that there was this thing called the mafia in the United States. I'm not sure if the president shouldn't nickname Michael Cohen either Better Not Call Saul or Captain Obvious. I mean, that's pretty obvious what he got up and said yesterday, which is that the president, there were women that he was having relationships with outside of his marriage, and that he thought that that might impact his view on the folks' view on the election. To me, there was nothing criminal about that. And getting to your question, as a lawyer, the attorney-client privilege is the one sacred thing we have. Lawyers have terrible reputations, and I think Kendall would even agree. Unfortunately, we have it for a reason a lot of times. And it looks like to me that Donald Trump has found himself in the Jurassic Park of lawyers. I mean, I'm waiting for the next Raptor lawyer to come out of this thing between Lanny Davis, and I was listening to your last segment, who, you know, the stuff that he did back in the 90s to some of the things that we're seeing now with Cohen. And then also, let's not forget that Jim Comey is an attorney. And you know very well, Jason, look what that attorney did in his findings back on July 5th of 2016, when he found that Hillary Clinton was, quote unquote, extremely careless with her emails.
Yeah.
Oh, which, by the way, was a standard changed by our favorite FBI
believe me, there's a whole other set of subjects we could talk about there. What is highly suspicious for me is that Donald Trump's former attorney is suddenly represented by somebody from the Clinton orbit, Lanny Davis. And Lanny has a duty and a responsibility under the law to protect his client. But I want to play a clip from Lanny Davis here, and I want you to ask yourselves at home, is Lanny Davis working in the best interests of his client, Mr. Cohen, or is he working in the best interest of his own personal political beliefs? Watch this clip.
Would Michael Cohen seek a pardon from the President of the United States for any of this?
The answer is definitively no, under no circumstances, since he came to the judgment after Mr. Trump's election to the President of the United States that his suitability is a serious risk to our country. And certainly after Helsinki creates serious questions about his loyalty to our country, his answer would be no, I do not want a pardon from this man.
Are you kidding me? If you're an attorney for somebody who is now pleading guilty to a felony, you wouldn't accept a pardon from the President of the United States? How in the world can you make a case that that is in the best interest of his client, Mr. Cohen? Kendall, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it sounds like positioning. I'm sure Lanny Davis had some conversation with his client as well as his co-counsel before he launched into that. I think anybody would accept a pardon from about anybody who was president. It's so much better than the alternatives.
No, and I think he's doing it for some political posturing. But, Bryan, what's your take on it?
Jason, I think it's comical that Lanny Davis is Michael Cohen's lawyer. I mean, for folks that may not remember this, I mean, Lanny Davis was as entrenched in the 90s with the Clintons as episodes of Friends and Blockbuster Video. I mean, he was part of the culture. He is one of their best friends, and that's who's the attorney for Michael Cohen. Yeah. So the fact that I think one of your previous guests said that he got up and said what he said in court, which I don't believe is a crime, and it's Captain Obvious of something about President Trump, and that's all the evidence that we've seen today about anything that has to do with President Trump in this investigation, I think it raises a lot of questions to folks out in America who are wondering, what's all the billable hours going on in the Mueller investigation? That's all on the taxpayers' dime, and I think they're probably pretty sick of it.
Yeah, and I'd love to find out who's funding Lanny Davis in this and what his political motivations are. Gentlemen, thank you so much.